In the old Greek world, the distance between gods and humans didn't feel so far. Mountains rose like pillars between the earth and sky. The ocean breathed with moods of its own. Temples watched over valleys in patient stone. And among the heroes of those stories, the one name that has echoed across the centuries is Hercules. Although this is his Roman name, the version carried later through Latin and Empire. In the older Greek telling, though, his name was Heracles. It means, somewhat ironically, the glory of Hera. And in this story, especially in this story, that name matters. So we will call him Heracles. And his story begins before he was even born. It begins with a prophecy. A prophecy that was spoken clearly on Mount Olympus. A grandson of Perseus, a son of Zeus, would rule. 2 children of that line were expected on the same day, but only one would wear a crown. The other would live in its shadow. Hera heard the prophecy clearly, and she decided that the child who would rule would not be the one who bore her husband's shame. Hera went to the chamber where Alcmene labored, and she prolonged the birth, holding back the hour, nearly suffocating the child within her. And then she went to Queen Nike, and she hastened the hour for Eurystheus. And when the sun rose, Eurystheus had entered the world first. By law of prophecy, he would be king. It was not strength that decided it, not merit, not destiny fulfilled nobly. It was timing, and Hera had controlled it. Heracles was born soon after, large, restless, strong, even in the way that he grasped the air, as though reaching for something beyond his cradle. And he was given a name meant to soothe the heavens. He was called Heracles, the glory of Hera. It was, in part, an offering, a hope that the child might live under her protection rather than beneath her anger, a quiet promise that his life would bring her honor. But Hera did not mistake the gesture. To praise her name in the shadow of Zeus's betrayal felt less like devotion and more like irony. She did not rage. She did not weep. She decided. If the child of Zeus was to live, he would not live unchallenged. And so, in the deep of night, when torches burned low and the palace lay quiet, Hera sent something silent into the nursery. The old stories speak of serpents gliding across marble floors, their bodies catching the moonlight. But what matters is not the creatures. It is that this is the first test. When the doors burst open and attendants rushed in with trembling hands, they did not find a screaming child. They found the infant standing upright, calm, small fists still clenched. No wound marked him. No fear clouded his eyes. The child had survived, and Hera saw that he would not easily be undone. So, she withdrew her hand, not in forgiveness, but in patience. Gods do not hurry. They wait. Heracles grew quickly. Strength clung to him as naturally as breath. He lifted stones other boys strained to budge. He learned to wrestle without humiliating those he defeated. He listened more than he spoke. He was not bookish. He was not delicate. But he was not foolish either. When shepherds were troubled by a lion in the hills of Cytharion, it was young Heracles who answered. The beast fell at his hands. The people cheered, yet he did not boast. In the games, he excelled. In danger, he stood forward. For a time, it seemed the world bent slightly around him. Obstacles yielded, challenges retreated, and Hera watched. In Thebes, Heracles married Megara. The ceremony was held beneath olive branches, sunlight filtering through leaves in warm gold. The crowd was joyful. But it was Megaera's gaze that mattered most. She didn't look at him with awe. She looked at him with steadiness. And soon their home filled with warmth. Children's laughter echoed in the courtyard, and now, with the second child to complete the family, they were happy. For a time. Years passed quietly. Sandals wore thin. Olive trees grew thicker. And on Mount Olympus, Hera did not forget. She simply waited. Storms do not always arrive with thunder. Sometimes the air changes first. Clouds gathered one evening over Thebes, low and heavy. Lightning flickered beyond the hills, illuminating the sky in brief flashes of silver. Inside the house, shadows moved where shadows should not move, and Hera, who waited, chose her moment. Not lightning, not with flame. It was a disturbance of the mind, a fracture no sword could parry. A veil of madness descended. Heracles' vision distorted. The familiar became unfamiliar. He saw threats where none stood. He heard danger in the breathing of his own home. The strongest man in Thebes could not defend himself against the horror that invaded him from within. The room became a battlefield that no one else could see, and eventually the veil of madness lifted. Clarity came back, and with clarity came realization. His family was gone, and it was his fault. The house was silent, furniture overturned, smoke thinning in the air. Heracles stepped into the night beneath a sky that no longer held a storm, and he understood. He didn't shout. He did not curse the gods. He fell to his knees upon the stone. The Greeks did not believe strength made a man safe. They believed strength made a man responsible. And when responsibility collapses, the fall is not small. It is devastating. There are tragedies born of cruelty, and tragedies born of divine interference. But what defines a man is not only what is done to him, it is what he does afterward. Heracles did not flee. He sought judgment. He walked the mountain road to Delphi alone. The air grew thinner, the cliffs steeper. In the temple, incense drifted through the columns of stone. The oracle sat in shadow, her voice calm and distant. Heracles bowed his head. "What must I do?" he asked. The answer was clear. He would submit himself to his cousin, King Eurystheus, for 10 labors, not to gain glory, but to cleanse himself of his crimes. Heracles accepted, without argument and without excuse. Mycenae rose in bronze and marble in the distance. Eurystheus sat upon a throne that seemed larger than the hall required. He had worn the crown since infancy, and though it rested securely upon his head, it had never felt entirely his. When Heracles entered, the contrast was unmistakable. Strength before ceremony, muscle before marble. Heracles bowed deeply. Eurystheus studied him, not with fury, but with calculation. The prophecy had once favored him. It would not twist that way again. "You will serve me," the king declared. Heracles inclined his head. "Name the task." Eurystheus allowed the silence to grow. "In the hills," he said at last, "a lion roams. Its hide cannot be pierced. Its jaws crush stone. Many have tried, none have returned." He leaned back in the throne. "Rid us of it." At dawn, the bronze gates opened outward. Light spilled across the stone floor, and Heracles stepped beyond the threshold. Not yet proud, not yet crowned in legend, still young and humble, still seeking a cleansing more than glory. And far ahead in the hills of Nemea, the lion was waiting. Thanks for spending some time here at Mesa's place. If you'd like to hear the next labor of Heracles, consider subscribing so you don't miss the next story. And until next time, keep the fire burning.